This video is sponsored by Wing Technology, your ultimate flight sim hardware solution.
Hello everyone, we hope you're all doing very well. We're doing the final in our ACM series, looking at which contemporary aircraft is the best dogfighter. Today, two mighty ACM dogfighters, the FA-18C Hornet and the flanker, or the flanker variants, shall I say. For the flanker variants, we've got the Su-27, we've got the J11. In BVR, they're slightly different, but in ACM, they're essentially identical. It does not include the naval flanker, the Su-33, which is a different kettle of fish, much heavier, not as good in ACM. Let's break down today's video. We are here to find out which is the best dogfighter. First of all, we will talk about the experiment. Secondly, we will talk about the weapons and the kinematics. Third, we will talk about predictions. Fourth, we'll go and do the dogfights and see 6 of them. 5, we will get a summary, which is the best dogfighter. If you want to skip to a certain category, please look in the video description for the timestamps. First, the experiment. The boys have actually already gone around 30 dogfights, and they have practiced before this and stuff like that, but we've got 30 dogfights here. Some of them guns, some of them hobs, about 50-50. Now, it's important that we try and remove the pilot's skill bias as much as possible. The way we do that is we have a series of pilots. Today we've got Bear, Penguin, Le Crep, Squiddle and Pat. Say hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
Hello.
And we make each of them fly both aircraft. We're really looking for which is the best machine in the average pilot's hands. That's what we're trying to get to. Now, the fights have actually been done. The results of the fights are being kept secret. I don't know what they are, so your guess is as good as mine. Next, let's talk about the weapons and the kinematics. Weapons for the FA-18C. We've got helmet-mounted display, coupled with that Hob high off-bore sight missile. And a really good one, a smokeless Sidewinder X. You've got no angle of attack limiter, essentially. You can pull high angle of attack and control the aircraft, and the aircraft remains stable. So these 3 things put together make the Hornet very, very good weapons-wise. Su-27, you've got a helmet-mounted display that, for all intents and purposes, is about the same. You've got a Hob missile. You've got, is it the R-73, I think they've got?
AFM.
Not quite as good as the AIM-9X. A, it's smoked. B, it doesn't quite have quite as high off-bore sight angle of track. But otherwise, for all intents and purposes, it's nearly as good. You also have stick range extension. You also have ASC override, which allows you to basically remove the angle of attack limiter. However, the aircraft becomes unstable. So it's really a one-time use thing only. So all in all, relatively similar weapons and technology. Now let's look at the kinematics. So, as measured in DCS as of 2020, low altitude speed, relatively important. Su-27 holds the title at Mach 1.18, the FA-18C at 1.16, but essentially they're the same at low altitude. What about maximum speed at high altitude? Well, a complete difference. This is where the flight models start to break down. The Su-27 being a less complex flight model. It's what we call a Flaming Cliff 3 plane. Simply isn't modelled properly in terms of drag at high altitude. High speed as Mach 2.54. That is not realistic, but that's how it is in DCS. FA-18C is realistic at Mach 1.81. Next, acceleration, extremely important in a dogfight. Low altitude acceleration, this is 300 to 650 knots true. F-18, 18.68 seconds. Su-27, 19.83 seconds. It's just a little bit too heavy, a little bit too draggy, so the Hornet pips that by a second or so. High altitude acceleration, 300 to 650 knots true. 26.43 seconds for the Hornet, 27.46 seconds for the Su-27, so a second behind again. So acceleration, the Hornet takes it. Climb rate, a good indicator of power to weight, as well as drag. We've got F-18, this is a QRA launch from ground to 20,000 feet. 1 minute and 2 seconds for the F-18, 1 minute and 9 seconds for the Su-27, so that's a delta of 7 seconds. So power to weight, drag, F-18 is just better. Climb rate from a fast 600 knots start, otherwise the same, 26.4 seconds, 28.9 seconds, so 2.5 seconds better, more or less. Really important for a dogfight, max sustained turn rate with ACM gas, drag index equals 0, and that's, 50% fuel in this case. F-18 is roughly around the 420 true airspeed band. We've got 22 degrees per second. It's the best in DCS at the moment as it stands, apart from an F-14 with maneuver flaps. Su-27 around the 400 to 430 task mark, so about the same. 18 degrees a second, that's 4 degrees less, so it's a much worse turner. Bearing in mind that was done with 50% gas, which is a lot in an Su-27. Su-27, the way the fuel works is a little different to all the other fighters in DCS, so just bear that in mind. So you might want to round that up to 19 degrees per second if you're on 30% of gas. Max sustained angle of attack in a turn with 10% gas. This is quite important, we found. FA-18C, now it doesn't have an angle of attack limiter per se, but you can sustain up to, in a slow turn of 170 gas, 26 degrees, which is really good. I think it's better than anything else. Su-27 at 180 gas, knots at 22 degrees, so again 4 degrees down. So almost everything the Hornet's won. It's just better kinematically. This means nothing at all. The Su-27, 72,000 feet, it can sustain. F-18, 61,000 feet, it can sustain. And finally onto the roll. This is relatively important for a dogfight. Ailerons only. By that I mean stick only without the rudder. That's what I mean. 300 true knots, true airspeed, 1,000 feet. We've got 181 degrees per second from the flanker, 168 from the F-18. This is usually a restriction of the fly-by-wire is what restricts this rather than the actual airframe itself, we found. We ramped up to 600 knots. The Su-27's 172 degrees per second. The F-18 has to slow right down for reasons I don't know, down to 130 degrees per second. And if we're on aileron and rudder, 225 for the Su-27 and just under 200 for the F-18. So roll, flanker takes it. Top speed, flanker takes it. Everything else, the F-18 takes it by a margin. And I would put my bet on a kinematic horse of the Hornet for that. So with that, prediction. So imagine you've gone all the way back before you've done your dogfighting. Things you knew, you've all flown these planes, you've all got plenty of hours in them. What would have been your predictions before the dogfights?
I go with the F-18. I like the full fidelity part of it, and I like the more updated systems.
Is that going to make you win a dogfight though?
Yeah, because head-mounted display, looking at it, and the M9X being such a good weapon gives an advantage, I guess.
Anyone else?
I think overall, before I went into this, I definitely think it's the F-18 is going to have the edge. But I think I remember saying to Bear and them, that they're going to be very similar. My personal experience says, if you look at the dogfighting scene in DCS, most people are flying the F-18 and the Mirage, and there are some flankers in there. And the guys who are really good in the flankers can kill you, So I can say right off the bat, without any testing, that the two planes are similar enough to where the better pilot in that fight is going to come out probably on top, regardless of the plane.
Unless you make a mistake.
Yeah, well, exactly, and then you're not the better pilot anymore once you make that mistake.
I was really looking forward to this because I know they've both got similarities in that they've both got the same tech essentially, or similar tech, and they've both got the ability to fly at high angles of attack through different means. But that was why I was quite excited about this.
You'll see what he mentioned in the first fight.
Roger.
You'll see what happens.
They're both capable of very high angle of attack, low speed maneuvering. In the terms of the flanker, it has to get that maximum, or I should say minimum, radius turn at low speed. A lot of times you have to resort to the Cobra to get, you're in a vertical scissors and you're really trying to get slow. The problem that the 18 doesn't have as much is when you pull the Cobra, when you do that, you're basically stalling the wings at the same time, and you lose your ability to roll the plane. If you pull hard enough. Obviously, there's a gradient to this. But where with the F-18, you're always, when you're at these high angles of attack, you're always on the verge of stalling. But the 18 doesn't have as much issue with that low-speed handling that I've found. That's
right. Well, the way I've always thought about it is the flanker. DCS only, and probably in real life from what I've seen, the flanker, it's, ASC override is kind of a one-trick pony type thing. You can use it once and then you're going to lose control, pretty much, which is probably pretty much what we see from the air shows. It always ends up pretty much stalling itself. Whereas the Hornet can achieve a very high angle of attack, 50 degrees, 60 degrees, and not stall just about. You can control it, can't you, for aerodynamic reasons, fly-by-wire reasons, presumably.
Are you talking about the jettison wings button in the flanker?
Yeah, how about that? That's the same button. That's the same button as long as you're doing more than 300 knots.
Yeah, it happens a few times.
So you problem, boys. Right, guys. I think we're going to start with the dogfights. Should we do the 3 guns first and then go on to the hobs? Are you happy with that? So we've got Squiddle here in the J11 in this case, Transonic, Pat, Supersonic in the F-18, going in guns. And they are at their obligatory 20k because we regulate it. And what are we going in this case? Pat's gone up and Squiddle's gone around. We get to see the energy states in EK and EP for kinematic and potential there. Keep an eye on that. Pat's, of course, pretty safe going up. He's safe stalling himself because this is a guns fight. He doesn't have to worry about missiles flying around at this point.
Pat, you can share what you were thinking at the time during the fight.
Well, going up, personally, I always go up. That's my favorite move with a guns fight.
You still using the
It's
keyboard,
just
Pat?
Yeah, of course.
So worrying. And you think it makes him sound terrible, but he's actually like an amazing dogfighter.
Yeah,
even
he
with
is.
keyboard.
He is
beat
very
me.
difficult to fight.
Beat me, and I was like, the internet was like, "You're terrible, Cap." No, he's just really good.
To make him feel better, we decided to all fly only with keyboard and mouse.
Is
for
that
this
right?
video.
Right, so Pat's... it's this lovely... I love this fight here. I'm just going to pause because I just love this fight. So Pat's done the thing that a lot of people do in Hornets because it's good at it. He's essentially sat it on its tail. He's not barely moving. And he's just is doing what the Hornet does better than anything in the world, which is just keep its nose pointed. A Squiddle, right? He can do that. He can sit at 100 knots, 90 knots, 80 knots and point his nose at pretty much anything.
Look at the AOA.
Where is it? Oh, yeah, exactly. 50 degrees angle of attack. It's, like I said, it's basically, you know, like a rocket ship almost. And Squiddle's reacting to that. He's not doing what I do, which was try and kind of turn with him. Squiddle's going into an energy fight. He's keeping his speed high. He's realising that he's going to have to try and stall Pat out to get round it. However, the brute fact is that the Hornet is a better, more powerful kinematic machine than a flanker, as we're about to find out, and it's probably just not going to work. He's not going to be able to get away enough, and the Hornet will accelerate too fast for Squiddle's plans to work. If Squiddle was an F-16, this would probably work because it would accelerate so fast he could shoot up to space, turn around before Pat could get his speed back. But flanker, excellent plane, not that good kinematically, unfortunately. So I love watching this fight, and Pat's going to do the same. He's just going to keep his nose on that flanker or near it. And it could take a while. And Squiddle's in the driving seat at the moment in that he decides when he's going to turn in. And he's going to be looking out of his cockpit, watching Pat, and watching how slow he is. And how are you going to tell that? You're going to look for vapors. You're going to see, I guess.
Vapor, and I can see him moving across my cockpit, but not closing, you know? So I can kind of see, he's really far back there, you know? So I feel safe.
The problem is, though, you've only managed to get up to 300 knots. While he's at 200, like I said, if that you're an F-16, you could probably be doing 450 knots and being out where that sun is. So you probably just not powerful enough for this.
And the higher I get, the worse my engines are getting, especially in this.
Saturns are not good at high altitude. Yeah.
At that part, it was also my mistake. I should have just leveled out at that point.
I'm gonna jump.
Like it happens 3 times. I wasn't warmed up. But yeah, we'll see.
I'll jump. Okay. It's a 250.
Also, we're not allowed to shoot in head-on.
I forgot about that.
So if we're in the head-on position, we're not allowed to shoot each other.
I mean, that's almost negated in a way, because whenever you're a head-on, like we always say, it's a 50-50 anyway. So I kind of prefer it like that. What do we got here? So Squiddle's managed to get up to 400 knots, but Pat, in kinematically superior machines, managed to keep nose on nearly and 300 knots. Squiddle's trying to keep his machine unloaded in terms of G. Pat's unloaded now, or unloading a bit. Okay, now Squiddle's committing. He's gone over the top, 30 degrees angle of attack. He's going to try something now. He's decided the time is now. Pat's having none of it. Again, 40 degrees angle of attack is all there. Very hard for that flanker to turn with him like that. So he's going to get afterburners on. He's going to unload a little. get some distance. Again, Hornet's already nearly back to his speed. Speed that up. So again, Squiddle's kind of in the driving seat in that he's waiting. He's going to decide when to turn back in. He's just repeating what we just saw a few minutes ago, basically. Trying to wear this guy down. If that was an F5 Tiger or something, it would be stalling out the air now, and then Squiddle could come in and win. But, you know, the Hornet is a powerful modern machine. It can stand up on its tail and go up almost like a rocket, so it's not quite going to work in this case.
And I can see him not keeping his nose on
That's
me
right.
here.
Yeah, so Pat's realised it's a fool's errand to just keep his nose up. So he's unloaded a little. Oh, so Squiddle's said it's time to go. He's going to go in. The best he can get is a head on, and we're not allowed to shoot each other head on because it's just not... It's not productive for what we're trying to do here. In a real dogfight, you would, obviously. But we always say it's a 50-50 who wins a head-on shot, and that's not, you know, productive of what we're trying to find out here. Right, looks like we've equaled each other out. We're possibly going to go into scissors. We're both 250 knots for the same aspect, or reverse aspects. Going to go to the classic heart and vertical scissors, probably. One thing I noticed about that flanker, whenever it turns, it burns off more speed than the equivalent F-18.
Well, in the turns, I try not to bleed my energy because at this point I learned the mistake of losing my energy in the going vertical with a flanker.
Roger. So in the classic, look at that, lovely. I love how it draws. So you can see that beautiful vertical scissors going down. It's wonderful. And look how equal they are in the amount they're pulling. So what they're trying to do is actually get slow now, so the other guy will extend out in front. But unfortunately, they're both very good at getting slow and turning tight. It's a minimum radius now. And they're both, you know, pretty much the same. Got 1,500 there, 1,500 there, doing about the same job on average. You can see blue's getting ahead slightly, so that's helping red a little bit. But having such a big bird, I don't think he can kind of go into this kind of death spiral now, where they're just trading. They're having to trade the altitude to keep their speed. I'm going to have another merge. So it's kind of a scissors again. Completely equal. Neither can take the rear of the other. Usually the case that this will go until someone hits the ground first, and the guy that hits the ground first will usually lose the flight, but not always. But we'll see. Red's got ahead a bit, so Pat's on top a bit maybe. Pat trading loads of altitude. Look at that beautiful scissors we've drawn all the way down. It's so easy to explain things when it works like that. Oh, a snapshot from Squiddle there. Why not? It shows him hit there. I'm pretty sure he would have got hit because a 30mm shell would have probably blown that thing apart.
Yeah, he did hit.
It was a kill.
Oh, really?
At that point, my computers were off.
I had no idea.
Lucky hit.
It. Well done. Well, yep, it's a legal hit. So that's a dead F-18 now. I had no idea when I was watching it.
So if you rewind it, I can tell you where the exact moment where the flanker won there.
So I'm playing at half speed
right
now.
here actually is all right. So if you stop, you can rewind it just a couple more seconds.
Well done.
So I don't know exactly. I wasn't flying the 18. So all right, go ahead and play it on normal speed, just to get a little farther forward. So right here, he's winning the scissors. He's slower, which means his radius is going to be smaller. He's going to descend less than me. But right here, I think he must have put his throttle back in, and he accelerates very rapidly.
I saw that. I kind of picked that out as well.
And so did I when I was flying. So I saw him accelerating massively, which is right here. I knew he was way below me.
Look at that displacement that's gone down, yeah.
Exactly. So this is where he actually lost the scissors, right here.
Right. So he got out too far ahead, and then Squiddle saw that, thought, okay, I'm going to, slow it as much as I can.
Keep doing what I'm doing.
And have a squirt. Nice. And that was a kill in that case. Zap, zap, zap. Was that the one? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
I know there's lag involved and stuff, so it did actually hit him in the server's mind. and that's it. Right, so that shows how one slight mistake in the scissors, when one just edges a little bit further forward, tries, just adds a little bit too much power, adds a little too much nose down, is going to allow, when everything else is more or less equal, which this fight's pretty much seemed it, then it can be capitalised on, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, in terms of the machines, anything to point out here? Everything seemed roughly equal otherwise.
I would just say, it doesn't really matter what plane you choose, but in this case, you always, the F-18 is amazing in single circle, but it doesn't mean it's always the right thing to do all the time. Because his dedication to the one circle allowed me to use energy, right? And I could tell after the first few passes that he was going to do one circle, which allowed me to develop a plan to exploit the one circle, which ended up getting us into a one circle, but it also made sure that he never actually got into a position where he could kill me.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Fight 2, they swap round basically. This is now Pat in the flanker and it's Squiddle in the F-18, so it's important we always swap round like this. It's our best way of removing pilot bias. Oh, let's just have a look at the speeds because it's interesting. Transonic Pat, essentially supersonic Squiddle. See where we're going. So Pat, like you said, he's over the top. Now because he goes over the top every time, I imagine Squiddle will start spotting that and start planning for that, I guess. He knows that you'll go up. Like me, I always go up as well, which is the only thing I can do without spooning it up.
So as you know, I like to go up too, but I normally go up with massive energy.
Yeah.
So as you can see, I'm restricted to 450 indicated.
Yeah.
And so I haven't been going up. But I am still maneuvering in relation to the bandit, so you see I'm kind of taking an oblique angle.
Yeah.
Going up here, because I'm maneuvering in relation to the J11.
Amazing kind of one circle pull from Pat there. If you had missiles on board, that was a flankers fight. Let's see how that develops. So speeds. Okay, Pat's actually doing quite well. He's very aggressive. Can't fire at each other. Neutralized. Okay, we're going into our vertical scissors again by the looks of it. Draw the... oh no, Pat's exited. That's... oh, so that's what I'm no dogfighter, as you know, but you pick up things as I go along. And I've always been told once you're committed to something like the scissors, the guy who exits the guy who reverses and exits can easily lose, and it's a no-no. So let's see if he gets punished for it. Because that puts Squiddle at a beautiful displacement and on his 6. What was the thinking behind that, Pat?
Well, I realized that I don't want to be on a low-speed AOA fighter with a Hornet at that speed. Like it was like 200 knots or something.
Roger. So you've exited.
That's basically a no-win situation for me.
Roger. And I just want to wind back now, just to see what's happening. I get the feeling that's a kill about to come. I can't remember, but look how rather than Squiddle, so Squiddle's got a lovely position here, obviously. Rather than him doing what I would do, which is just to, pull all the alpha in the world and get my nose onto him for a shot, he's instead gone into a massive kind of lag, really big lag solution presumably to get his speed up. And let's see how that is about to pay off in a minute. That's all about thinking ahead, the long game, which that's something I couldn't do. And now when Pat sees him and recommits, Squiddle's now zoom in with 400 knots, and look at now he's probably going to take the shot, or at least let's see if he does it. Was that a kill? No, not a kill. I mean, that was very close to a kill, so that was interesting there. Okay, let's carry on.
So yeah, I like to get up to my turn rate speed in pretty much any plane I fly, because that speed, even if I'm on their 6, I can cash that in to pull angles. So that's why. But if you're too fast, then you can't.
Roger.
And if you're too slow, you can't catch them.
That's a dead flanker. There's nothing that flanker do to get away now. And there's a kind of a big. Sorry, before you go, there's kind of a big not conspiracy. What's the word? There's a kind of thing out on the internet that all that flanker has to do now is do its party trick. The
oh no,
the ASC.
No, he's way too far for that.
And he'll fly right by. But in reality, 99 point something % of the chance, unless you're in exactly the right distance, that will never work, because you just become a massive, really easy target. Even I could hit
huge target.
Right. Yeah. So you're going to say
like shooting
something.
down Tom Cruise.
Basically, you're going to say something, Squiddle.
No, I was going to say that I can't remember if he was hit at this point or not. He might have been clipped, but I don't think so.
No,
I think you did hit both my engines.
Oh, he's probably dead. I'm just wondering. Let's say he didn't get hit. My worry.
I can't remember.
My worry, from what I've read in the numbers and what I've seen so far, my worry is if you get a Hornet behind you less than a mile away and you're on a flanker, there's not really anything you can do. You can't play the energy game. You can't outrun. You can't out-turn rate. What can you do? I can't. You've almost got to. I don't know. It's your problem at the end of the day.
This is.
Fine.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, you're pretty much dead here.
Pretty much dead.
In this situation with a Hornet that's close to your 6, I would say you could try to get fast. At this point,
But
you definitely can't maneuver to try to beat him. You're done. You could force an overshoot. Try to, or you could try to get to your maximum speed on the deck and just try to outrun him.
Roger, but I mean, we've already looked at the figures, and you're never going to outrun it. I mean, if you're an F-16, you could out-accelerate that thing if you've got enough lead, and you can't get a gun solution, you out-accelerate, or an F-15 and run, but the flanker can't run.
It's the best of two shitty options.
Roger. Okay, guys, we're going to skip forward now to the third guns fight and stand by. Welcome back to the last of our gunfights. We've got Penguins joined us from the lovely city of Liverpool, or nearabouts, and he is in the F-18. Le Crep is in the J11, near enough a flanker in ACM. Speeds are supersonic, Le Crep, transonic, Penguin. Let them go. Two boys we haven't seen today, so fresh in the fight. Both get down to about the same speed. We have a merge. And both gone lateral. No. Yep.
I think this was paddles and Cobra allowed.
Paddle. Can you... So paddle on the Hornet means that we can get all the way up to 9G or thereabouts, isn't it?
10G plus.
Right. Yeah. And the ASC on the... essentially the same thing, kind of, in the J11, except it's not as... no,
it's not a G limiter on the J11.
Sorry,
rip your wings off.
It's an angle of a tank limiter, isn't it? Right, yeah, or delimiter, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think the ASC override means you literally get full control of the rear stabs, which is obviously a bit of a dangerous thing. But so I guess it's an everything delimiter, really, isn't it? Anyway, but it's still guns. So kind of brilliant first circle again from the Hornet. Tiny radius, excellent turn rate. And the flanker couldn't quite match that, but let's see where it goes. Oh, no, it couldn't have got him. Couldn't have got him. It's a bit of a head-on, really, but I don't think he got him. Okay, I'm gonna slow down here, boys. Anything you guys want to talk about? If you remember this fight. Very aggressive from the Hornet so far.
Yeah, the J11 is a bit touchy when you're used to 18s.
Roger. So far I've seen whenever it comes to min radius, the Hornet so far today has always beaten the flanker. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
So one thing I haven't measured.
That is a thing.
Right, and that's a big thing in a dogfight. It's really important to be able to achieve a minimum radius, as we can see many times. This is Red's game all day by the looks of things. The last two fights have really just been the flanker trying to stay alive, I think. Back down into our classic, almost halfway between a vertical and lateral scissors, but kind of.
This is you're entering a rolling scissors.
Right. Yeah. Also, it looks like the Crep's unloading, and he's just going to extend. So he's going to get.
Yep.
So this is going to be interesting then. So what we were saying before, pretty much your only way of escaping is for the flanker, if he sees the opportunity to unload, so reduce the alpha as low as you can, and just burn away. And we're going to see that now. And what I'm worried about is the F-18 superior ability to accelerate, basically catch him up. Because what Blue wants to do is get away enough that he can turn around and get back at Red. The flanker's pretty useless at doing that. Also, because look, one thing I've learned, if you, you guys may disagree with this, but I've always, when seeing this, whenever I extend, I try and just go straight as long as I'm not being shot at, because otherwise, other guy can always cut inside your kind of turning extension, and just completely remove its advantage. Which is what we're going to see here.
Yeah, you need to be far away before turning in. But
one thing I noticed with the when we dogfought against the 104 years ago, is that they always extended straight and flat. And I was like, what the hell are these guys doing? They're just going straight, and they could jink the they could jink the guns, but it worked really well for them. Just a good kill, good solid kill. So the Crep's extension just wasn't good enough. Red just had his burners on, crept inside of it. And I just had a good shot there. Anything you guys want to add to that?
I think it was a decent fight. I think there's going to be errors in every fight in terms of like BFM, right? Every single fight, including just all of them. But I think in this case, if you rewind just for a second, you could actually see right after he exited the fight and started to turn.
Yep, ready?
This is all hindsight 2020. Yeah, well, so a little past this.
Yeah, so he said, okay, I don't want to be here. Hornet's going to win this. Burners on, straight, unload.
So hindsight 2020, he had an opportunity here. He got pretty darn fast, almost twice the speed of the Hornet. He could have actually converted that back into a vertical situation where he went up. And so that would force the Hornet to pull alpha to keep his nose and lead on the J11. but the Hornet was already well below 300 knots, and then putting him back into a climb.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so I think in hindsight that might have been a way to survive. But excuse me, hey, sorry, she thinks I talk to her sometimes. Sorry, but in hindsight that might have worked. But again, who
Rather
knows?
than take it into another term fight. Yeah, Roger. No, it's good thinking. Anyone else on that one? Okay, welcome back. We're onto our hobs now. Things will change a lot about how they react to scenarios and the threat now. Both transonic, both the same altitude and whatnot, obviously. Let's see where they go. We've got Bear, F-18, Penguin, J-11, similar weaponry. Don't know why he's been hit, but he has apparently. That's interesting. We've got Penguin going up, which is a relatively rare thing to do in a hob fight because obviously you can be very vulnerable going up, highlighted against a kind of dark sky in terms of at least IR. But anyway, Bear's gone down, kind of 3/4 down. Then again...
Yes. As long as you pre-flare going up, you're safe.
Roger.
For 9 out of 10 shots.
Which he's done or is doing. And it looks like he's going to get that one circle, he's going to get that ball sight vector here on blue quicker. Not that they has to. All right, let's just stop there and talk about it. So just, let's cover everyone of all understandings here. We don't, in this case, with this missile, a hob, have to point our aeroplane at it. You can point it just within kind of 30, 40 degrees or something like that, or sometimes even less accurate than that, and the missile can curve around and bend round, and that's what we've done. In fact, they've both got them off at almost exactly the same time, maybe a quarter of a second. And isn't it interesting how when they've done it, these ball sight vectors or longitudinal vectors are perfectly parallel. So now it's going to be who can or who has done the most pre-flaring, who can get the most flares out, and who can get the engine off, or at least off afterburner quick enough, will be the one that dodges the missiles. Now, this always obviously favours the guy up high because he can turn his engines off and not stall. This guy cannot turn his engines off and not stall, but not always that clear cut. Let's see how it goes. In terms of missile technology, we much prefer this blue missile because it's not smoked. It's harder to see, and actually we think it's more generally manoeuvrable and could track a slightly higher off bore sight, we found.
I think it's also worth mentioning that the R-73's countermeasure resistance is not as good as the 9X.
Mm-hmm.
The R-73 is much more spoofable.
I believe it's an older type of missile.
It's definitely older, yeah, way older.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anyway, let's track it. You can already see the 9X has been spoofed in this case. It was the pre-flares, I think, that spoofed it because it never even really attempted to track. The R-60s are tracking, I think. Not 60s, 73s.
Looks like they're tracking to me. Yeah.
No, nearly.
Oh!
It was good flaring.
Oh.
Good flaring. Bear, did you come off afterburner?
I never went into afterburner.
And you didn't need to, I suppose, because you've gone down. Penguin, had you come off afterburner?
I think I had the, yeah.
Right, so good. So obviously, massive difference with whether those missiles are going to track if you've got afterburner or not. And if you want proof of that, I've done a whole hour-long video getting the data, and it's like 170% chance extra or something like that. Okay.
Oh, man.
In they go.
I merged at 450, no burners, and I never went into burner.
Roger.
Unless I needed it.
Or about to sort yourself out, however. Let's see how that goes.
So you've cached one of your missiles, so you've still got one, huh, Bear?
Yeah.
I did need to find my second one.
There's an error. There's a clear error from Penguin, yeah.
I'm
happen.
pretty sure I would have kicked in the burner just to help me turn over.
Roger. He's got himself down to 50 knots. Penguin's going for the Cobra. Woo! 44 degrees angle of attack.
He's gonna
He's
stall.
Cobra'd it. They're both stalled. Oh, look at that shot. That's a growling sidewinder pre-made, that is. Look at that. I've got to go back. Got to see that. Stand by. That's a, what do you call it? A show shot.
Yeah, this is max performance for a 9X right here.
That really is, isn't it? I mean, that's a great advert for an Aimline X in the game. Look at that. Off bore sight by 50-something degrees.
Yeah, it's way off.
Amazing, that. Oh, if it's gonna bend, it might not bend. It's trying. It's trying. And it had pre-flares. And Penguin's got his engine off, but no, it just didn't get full.
And that was actually pretty easy for that missile. It straightened out halfway through.
Roger. I get the feeling Penguin was probably on. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Well, he was completely stalled. I think he's got no control at this point.
Yeah.
Penguin.
No, I don't think I hit the Cobra button. I was literally just pulling full half stick to try and get around on him.
I didn't think it would let you go up to 40 degrees angle of attack, but yeah, one way or another. I mean, it's interesting how they were both stalled. When they fired, they were both at about 80 knots or something stupid. But I mean, that is a great missile and a great lock and everything that was. Really,
Wait for the turn, get the turn, pull the trigger.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
18 makes it nice and easy.
I find it easier in an F-18 than in the flanker type of FC3 HMD. I find it awkward, fiddly. I find the HMD, and here's why. I think F-18, you press the button and a little circle comes up. You put him in the circle, and it does everything for you, right?
Automatic.
Locks up,
Yeah.
beautiful, and you just push the button to fire. This guy here has to put the guy in the little circle, in the egg, the HMD egg, and then press the button to lock, and then press the button to fire, which is actually difficult. And there's a delay on firing the missile. All of that together makes that inferior in terms of weaponry on an ACM. Bearing in mind that this is realistic, this plane. That plane is not very realistic in the way it's modelled. It's a Flaming Cliffs 3. It's a $10 plane or something like that. So that may not be realistic. I don't know.
It's interesting if you listen to F-18 pilots talk about, like, especially the older F-18 pilots who were flying in when it was the new plane on the block.
Mm-hmm.
Their main threat that they were worried about was the flanker.
Mm-hmm.
And because they, as far as they were aware, that the flanker outperformed the F-18 in pretty much every way in real life. I wish we could see that. But it's hard to say. I think the 18 again is the overperformer here in terms of its abilities. But
It is. It really is.
I mean, the 18 beats almost everything. I mean,
In DCS, yeah.
In DCS, yeah, and that's just not right.
Yeah.
So.
Roger. All right. Well, so be it. We're doing our job at the end of the day. Anything with that? I mean, it's a really good fight. Well done, guys. Anything before we move on?
I think the fact that I didn't go into burner definitely made a difference. I did pre-flare before he fired his 2 missiles. He shouldn't have fired 2, but he knows that. I think it was just a mistake.
Okay.
And I knew that I had 1 extra missile than him. I just had to wait for the right opportunity. Tone.
Quick, everyone make fun of Penguin. Quick.
Don't start.
Silly penguin. Silly penguin. Second hob fight, the Crep J11. We've got Penguin, F-18. I should say one thing, and this will upset the purists a bit, but we've got 50% gas in both.
Yep.
Technically,
Yes, Cap.
Technically, what the guys have told me is that generally the Hornet is 50% is ACM gas. The Flanker, because the way it stores its gas is different to the other planes, it doesn't have bags. 30% is actually ACM gas, but how much difference it makes, I'm not sure. But bear that in mind. And the figures Kinematics we looked at earlier is with 50%. Just
I think it's also worth mentioning that instead of our 73s on this one, we put massive baguettes on the Krebs plane.
They are very
Yeah.
tracking baguettes.
True.
Penguin up.
Yeah.
We
Logical
we
one.
never had a fuel problem in any of the aircraft in all 30 of these, and we did another session, which was also about 30 fights with no
Wow.
fuel problems.
That's 60 fights. That's commitment, boys. Roger. Beautiful S. I love it when they draw such good architecture there. Look how
But you can see the difference in the turn radius
Yep.
from the guy going up and the guy going down.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, that's more of a function of gravity, isn't it, rather than
Yes.
the plane.
Yep.
But look at that missile coming off. Look at that again. What's that? 45
9x.
degrees. That's beautiful. How quick are that going to acquire? And the Crep, no chance. That's 80 degrees off. He hasn't got a chance in hell of getting that off. So, has he pre-flared? No, but he's got to get his engines off. He's got speed to play with, so he can pre-flare, can dodge it. He's decelerating.
Popped a few flares.
That's spoofed. And he's got a missile off at the same time, multitasking. And now it's Penguin's time, and he's not doing it. He's not doing it. He's not doing it.
Boy.
Oh,
So-
dodge the visage. Error.
Yeah, this was me forgetting to switch the bypass on. So
Wow.
Got to turn his flares
Not
on.
out the power of the baguettes.
How about that? That's a win from the flank. I mean, that for me, that was the Hornets' day, but that was the Hornets' game to lose, and he did lose it at the end of the day. He got his first shot off. I wonder what would have happened if he'd have dodged.
You know, these Hob fights that we do, these are perfect illustrations why countermeasure programs exist.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it's actually, at least for me, maybe I'm just a one-celled idiot, one brain cell idiot. But when I'm, thinking about turning really hard perfectly, trying to get the guy in my helmet, and I'm having to worry about countermeasures
Right.
and shooting the missile and making sure I'm not doing anything else stupid. It's actually really hard to remember to pop your flares consistently.
Yep.
And it would be so much easier where if you just have a program where it pops, flares like every 10, for 10 seconds. It's so much easier that way.
Also, we're not dealing with the G forces and stuff. That's another bunch of your brain that's thinking about you. Yeah, so go in, set up a batch of 20 of them, pop, dogfight, and they'll just be bang, 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 banging along. And by the time those have run out, someone's dead, basically, because of a hob. So, yeah, absolutely. I used to hate programs. But now I've got used to it in the F-16 where you don't have a choice, I don't think. It's actually weird going back to the old-fashioned way of popping. You can see why the real pilots do program it. Right, that's just a clear win and an error on the F-18. Simple as that. Otherwise, I think the F-18 was in a better position. He could have gone off. No, well, I don't know. Maybe they were equal, you can say, but there you go. Anything from that other than remember to turn your things on?
Everybody make fun of Penguin.
Yeah,
You always do your pre-flight checks.
Off they go, Bear. F-18, Transonic, Le Crep, Transonic, J-11, whoosh, Hob fight, so it probably won't last very long. We've got both gone down. Oh, I'm going to draw this lovely heart now. Now, this is all about turn radius and turn rate. Which one can do it better? We know the Hornet can do it better, so let's just see. At least in this case.
So it looks like Bear's pulled the limiter. Have you pulled the limiter, Bear?
Yeah, this is right at the end.
So it's at 7.4.
Okay.
What's this guy got? This guy has just a turn rate 3,000. I don't know how he's on 7, actually.
No, you missed it. Rewind it by a couple seconds.
Yeah.
He hit 23 on the turn rate.
Yeah,
It was just there.
I think we started the limiter from about 22 downwards.
Yeah. So both turn rate 20 degrees a second at the moment, so they're equal. And now 23 degrees per second on the Hornet, and Bear's kind of let off for whatever reason. Zoom! Is that paddle? Is that paddle doing that?
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
So that's the paddle on the Hornet doing its thing. Now in that one circle kill. And look how quickly his vector's getting around to this guy. And this guy's not even gone past plumb yet.
Mm-hmm.
And he can pretty much shoot there if he's got the lock. It's slightly, I haven't seen the lateral offset there.
It's crazy.
And that is a crazy
18,
vehicle.
18 at the paddle is insane.
Roger. And he makes the flanker look really crap. And the flanker's not crap, it's just that is really good. And he's got a missile off before the flanker's even really seen this guy. Again, off-sight, off-ball sight angle of 35, 40 degrees there. Hard to see missile. No pre-flares. Not much chance of dodging this now. Did get his own off, but it's dead by that point, obviously. Out of
dead,
interest.
yeah.
Is that going to track? Too close to fuse? Oh, look at that! It was just too close to bend.
Oh, man. I bet the 9X would have hit that.
I bet an AIM-9X would have hit that, yeah.
I think the 9X is slightly more maneuverable. So
Look at that. Okay, guys, that's a classic. That's a classic one to include because this is, you know, if you're teaching to a student how to do a one-turn hob fight, the F-18 there, banging the paddle on, maximising that turn rate. So he's scrapping all his speed off in that big pull. He's up to 9+ G. He's up to 23 degrees per second. He's going to turn. He's up small radius, 2,400 feet turn radius against 33,500. Everything's about that is winning. Still maintaining 23 degrees per second. Same radius, still 9G. Easing off now because his speed's gone, obviously, and he's going to ease off now anyway. Okay, get him locked up in the sight. Pull the trigger. Missile comes off the rail. Put some flares out just in case.
it took you a while to get that lock bear.
Sometimes it does, doesn't it? Sometimes it wiggles
I can't
around.
remember why it took
It's
long,
'cause it's-
but
I think it's because of this offset. Look, what you don't notice is they don't go down quite straight. You know, sometimes when it doesn't go straight, you see bears kind of going off for kind of 45 degrees, and I think that's gonna.
What I'm just watching is when he stops pulling, is when I'm expecting him to have
Right. That's when he's doing his head
missile
stuff.
fired.
That's when he's doing his head stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because he doesn't want to be pulling and doing that.
So now he's really easing off on it.
Yeah, everything.
There it is.
Everything was right. Just
Yep.
took a little bit longer sometimes,
What-
isn't it?
One big thing regarding the J11 or Su-27 is that you don't get a tone when you aim with the HMD.
yeah, but
You
it
just have the
flashes.
side. Yeah, it flashes, but
It's
I'm
hard
not
to use,
sure
though, isn't
you
it?
are you are quicker by seeing the thing flashing than hearing.
That's the idea of
than
the
hearing
tone. That's
a
the idea of
high-pitched sound.
That's the idea of the tone. It's there, so 'cause
Yeah.
it's the best thing to get your brain to go, oh shit, fire! Whereas a tiny
Yeah.
little flashing circle in your HUD or your helmet you may or may not be looking at is a shit way
Yeah.
of doing it. Again, is it realistic for flanker? I don't know. It might not be realistic, but
I don't know.
no one knows. But
I don't know.
How many Gs
But I
does
think
the
I
73
think
pull
it's
here?
a big thing on reactivity.
Because I think the AIM-9X can pull like 35 plus Gs.
I'm looking for it. So 15, 20, 25. It maxes at 25. And that's just doing full motor deflection. 25G. So
That's
it's
why I
well
think
off.
maybe the 9X could have hit him, because if it could pull
Right,
another 10 Gs. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe the R73 wasn't going fast enough to pull more than,
Maybe.
25 Gs.
Yeah, it was right at the start.
It's hard to say.
Okay, guys. Anyway, that was just a perfect example of a one turn from a Hornet, and there's not really anything that can beat that in DCS, is there? Nothing can do that. I can think of. I'm thinking now.
Mirage is very close to the one circled Hornet. It's very close.
Ooh, don't say the M word. I've got some problems with that plane at the moment, but okay, that's fine. We'll move on. I've got to go. In fact, before we do it, Bear, I'm going to have my prediction just from looking at that. I don't know, who won this or not. I'm going to say that's the Hornets game all round. It had almost everything in what I saw there. It had the one circle. It had the turn radius. It had the turn rate. It had the the raw power to weight ratio. It had the better weapon. It had the better helmet mount display. I can't really think of anything apart from the one trick pony of the ASC override that the flanker has. And don't get me wrong, I want the flanker to beat the Hornet, but just saying, I would bet on the I'll bet on the Hornet. Okay, let's see what we get here. Zap guns, 11-0. Oh, 11-2. Sorry, 11-2. Wow, you couldn't ask for better results, really. Hobbs, 8-1. Absolutely thrashed, guys. And I know a lot of people are going to come out and say, I'm an expert in the J11, I could have beat him. And you could, if you're an expert. The whole idea is we're not having experts here. It's the idea. We're trying to equal out the amount of skill per plane. I mean, the results are so obvious.
Cap, that's,
Yes.
yeah, a lot of trades, the no results are mostly when there's either a mid-air or regarding the Hobbs, it's when both Hobbs miss, which happened twice. then it's not going to go to a guns fight. That's just a waste of time and it defeats the object of the hob. A lot of trades. We did another session, as I said, and we got a lot of trades. We did get kills with the Su-27 and the J11 in hobs as well as with guns type thing. But pretty much the end result was the same.
Yep. You do enough data, and I always say you do enough data, and it starts pointing in a direction. It's probably right. So it's pretty clear.
And I would point towards, in addition to not only our data here, which is just a few guys gathering some numbers, but if you look at the community as a whole, the vast majority of the community, when you go into like the 1v1 arenas, most of them are going to fly an 18 if you gave them a choice.
Yeah.
Not to say there aren't a few out there that are really good in the Su-27 and make it work, and it's great. But most people, and your highest level people, are flying the 18 or the Mirage, and a couple of flanker. So,
aren't you guys?
A specialist in the flanker can definitely bring a big challenge on, and certainly kill any one of us flying. That's a given. Using multiple planes, the 18 is easier to get kills with than the 27.
Okay, guys, that was so clear. I don't really need to summarize anything there, but anyone else wants to add before we move on from here?
Patat Urloch sent a message to say, can he join us for this? And it was great that he could join us. Thank you very much for coming along.
No problem, man.
We welcome all inputs and that. We're trying to give a fair and unbiased opinion.
And if you're out there and you're kind of friendly with us and you want to come and join us, do it. We're happy to have anyone in that's relatively highly skilled. Did anyone want to add anything before we move on? Okay.
No, I think we've covered most of the good stuff.
It's just a really easy one to summarize this. Okay, guys, that's for the time being the last of the dogfights. Which is the best dogfighters? We may come back because there might be some interesting grudge matches we want to do, but for the bulk of the work and the education that we're trying to do, that'll do it. We're going to move on to BVR next, and by the looks of things there, we're going to start with the Falcon/Viper versus the F-14, which is going to be a interesting match. I've already going to place my bet, but I won't tell you which one it is. Thank you for that ACM series so far, guys. It's been very good and very professional, and we'll see you for the BVR.
I look forward to the BVR section. It's going to be really fun.